Hi, welcome to the BD Roundtable. We're here today with Danielle Vidigal. Danielle is the director at Vidigal Marketing, a legal marketing boutique based in London. Now, Danielle is a former Chambers and Partners researcher, so we're excited to talk with her to get a behind-the-scenes look about what really goes on after we upload our legal directory submissions, what do researchers look at when they're evaluating law firms, and how can we make the submission process a lot easier. So if you want to join us at the BD Roundtable, head on over to bdroundtable.com. Now, here's Danielle. So you're originally from Brazil. So how did you find your way to London?
Well, I went to Brighton first of all, and I was there to study English, just to improve my English. Ended up meeting someone and ended up staying. So that's the short story. And then after staying here, not here in London, in Brighton, I started, looking for different jobs and came across Chambers because I used to be a filmmaker back in Brazil and used to do documentaries and all these kind of things. And Chambers was looking for someone who would be able to interview people in English and in Portuguese as well. They wanted someone to research Brazil and Portugal and other Portuguese-speaking countries. And then, I came across that job and it was great. I mean, it was it was a bit like serendipity. I was just browsing on Facebook, someone's friends of friends, and and then okay, I'll have a look at that. And then it sounded so interesting, and here I am, like 10 years after that, still working with Chambers related things.
Right, and I see you have the 2015 guides on your shelf back there, like most people.
2008 as well, 2015, and the high net worth, a few of them, and some other ones are on the other room.
Right. Now, so I'm excited to have you on the call today because I think submissions is one of those things that the business development teams and law firms spend a lot of time on. And there's a lot of strong feelings, let's say, about submissions. So I think those who work in some of the mid-tier to large-tier firms were quite well aware of what submissions are. But for those who haven't really heard of submissions or aren't really familiar with them, can you just give a summary of why we should be paying attention to these and we should be, taking the effort to submit?
Yes, I think the first reason to submit is that if you don't submit, you are not going to be ranked. I mean, it is very unlikely that a firm that doesn't send submissions will get a place in Chambers or any other rankings, really, because the research process is really clear. What they do is they basically accept submissions, analyze this material. They will also talk to your competitors and talk to your clients. And then once they have gathered all this information, they will then make a decision as to whether you're able to join the rankings at this moment, or you should wait just a bit longer in a kind of internal category, and then you get ranked. But yeah, without this material, they do not have how to access your work and see where you are. So it is very important. And even once you are ranked, you still need to keep sending submissions. It's really important that you do that. And then, of course, the reason why it's so important for a law firm to be ranked is actually that it is kind of a benchmark. And it is a good way to attract clients and attract positive media and to cause a good impression in the market. Also, it's good for talent attraction and talent retention. Every lawyer and every professional will want to work for a firm that's been ranked. It helps with other with getting clients as well, because there are compliance rules in many big companies, so they have to hire firms that have been ranked by Chambers or Legal 500. So it is very important in many different respects. And one part that many people don't really pay attention to is that it's very good for SEO, for example. If you have a link to your website from a website like Chambers, it really helps you with SEO. So it's good in many, many different respects. So I would definitely encourage all our firms to send submissions and engage with Chambers.
Right. Now, just to be clear, you don't have to pay to be ranked, right? So can you sort of differentiate the marketing side of it and the paid profiles versus the research side? Because there seems to be some confusion.
Yes, yes. Lots of law firms and lawyers tend to be confused about this, and it's completely understandable because, yeah, well, it is understandable. So the thing is, the research process is free. So to send your submission, send your referees, to get your referees heard and interviewed and competitors talk about you, that's absolutely free. That's you just go into the chamber, for example, talking about chambers, you go into the chambers website, you create a login for yourself, and that's it, you're in the game. And for Legal 500, you have to also create a login, but it's a bit different. But anyway, that's the process, and that's free. What happens is, once you are ranked, then Chambers, Legal 500, all other directories will offer you the chance to buy a paid profile. So what this means is that once you're ranked, you can pay to expand the information that's written about you on the Chambers or Legal 500 website. And that's optional. Once you're ranked, you can pay for that if you wish. If you don't, you're not going to lose your rankings. So, and there is a Chinese wall between the researchers and the sales team. So there is no crossover on information. I mean, obviously the sales team will know once a firm has been ranked so that they can offer the paid profile option. But, you know, there is no kind of, oh, okay, so this guy paid for the profile, so they need to keep ranking.
Right.
They need to keep ranked. So it's not like that. It's absolutely independent.
I wish it were the same for all of the legal directories out there. Things like Legal 500 and Chambers and the IFLR are pretty legitimate, but for those who are new to submissions, there's a whole slew of legal directories, right, based on your region and your jurisdiction and your area of law. So that's great. So, all right, well, I really want to ask you, so we spend all this time preparing a very nice submission, and then we upload it, and then once it gets uploaded, it's kind of a mystery about what happens. So can you sort of give us the behind the scenes look at, you know, you're a researcher sitting in London, you get a law firm submission. So what's the process that you go through when you're starting to evaluate a firm submission?
Sure. So the first step, once the submission reaches the Chambers system, is for the researcher to open it. He'll have a look, or they will have a look, and they will write down questions that they have, like, for example, oh, we think that this is not particularly clear. You know, they'll really read it attentively. And then what they will do is they will start sending emails to your referees. So they will ask about what work has been done, which partners stood out, you know, so it's a very thorough kind of research process with your clients. And then a third part of the research starts, which is when they will ask your competitors about yourselves. So they'll ask, have you seen this guy? Have you seen this firm? And so they'll start gathering all this information. Once all this information is gathered, what they will do is they will analyze it and they will compare it with the other law firms and the results that the other law firms got. And then they will create the rankings, and there will be a meeting between the researcher and the deputy editor. And then from this meeting, the rankings will be made. There is also a third review, which is going to happen with the editor. So once the rankings are made, the editor will also check the ranking notes and everything that has been talked about between the researcher and the deputy editor. And then if there is anything that the editor thinks that might be a bit incoherent or incorrect, they will get back to the researcher and the deputy editor, and then they will have the opportunity to explain themselves and either change it or, you know, keep it as it is. And then after all that, the researcher will then write the editorial based on what they have found with interviews and also on the submissions. So it's a very thorough process.
Oh, so it's literally people sitting around in a room talking about the rankings. Okay. Or no?
What happens is the researcher will do their interviews and the research independently. And then once all the information is gathered, there is a meeting between the deputy editor and the researcher. It's just the two of them. And then they will discuss. Because what happens is that there is in the system, there is an internal system database that they use there. And then what happens is they will there is a drop-down menu, and then they will do on that drop-down menu what band they think the firm or the lawyer should be, and then they will write the reasons for that. So for example, this law firm is very good because all the clients have replied, and they are all very positive about their work. The submission shows relevant work, and also the peers do acknowledge their presence in this market. So I think they are well placed in Bantu. And then the deputy editor will also read the notes and read everything that's been collected about that law firm and see if they agree. And then could be the case that, maybe the deputy editor will think, okay, so they do have a case here, but there is this other law firm which has much more recognition. So I think that this other firm actually needs to be in Bantu, and this one should go Bantu.
So when you say recognition, is that other peers commenting about them, their presence in the market? It's not just the quality or the deal value or anything. It's that recognition amongst their peers, right?
Yeah, exactly. Normally what I say is that it's kind of a tripod methodology. So for the rankings. So what happens is they have to analyze the submission, which then they will be looking for the kind of cases that you have, the value of the cases, and which clients you're helping, and how complex the cases are. And this is one part of the analysis. And then the second part is the feedback from the clients. So that means, for example, if the clients are saying, oh, they're very good, but not that available, or I liked the work, but we didn't reach a good result, or any kind of negative feedback will be taken into consideration. And it's very interesting that certain problems do appear repeatedly from one firm to the other, and it's insane. I mean, it's so transparent. You can see many clients talking about the same thing about the same lawyers. It's really interesting. And then the third part would be this interview with the competitors, which then they will ask, have you seen this guy, and have you seen this law firm? And then in many cases, for example, a law firm could have a very good submission and very good feedback from clients, but they're still not there with the peer feedback, and they'll not be band one, for example, because of that, because they need to have all the three aspects very good in order to keep growing in the rankings.
Okay, so the submission in itself, most of the BD Roundtable members have a very big hand in writing the content that goes into the submission. So I want to get your feedback on the practice group overview. So what are some big no-nos or big do's that you should be doing in these practice group descriptions?
Yeah, I imagine you're talking about the B10.
Yes. I don't know the B10, B9, or what has your firm over the past 12 months?
Yeah, I know, it's just, I don't know, I'm about to count how many submissions I have written up to date, but it's many, so I do know each field, but it's just because I breathe this. I have been doing this for so long,
right.
Nearly 10 years now. So it's the B10, which is where you can write a bit more about your department, talk about your strengths. So what you should do is talk about your departments using facts. You should not be just giving them adjectives like, we are the greatest law firm in all the world, we are the best tax law firm. Don't do this kind of things, and don't use marketing speech. That part is for you to show the facts. The clients and the other lawyers, the competitors, will then put the adjectives about you. They will give you the qualities that Chambers is looking for. They are going to be the ones who will say, who talk about the quality of their work, of the work they were doing. They will be the ones talking the qualities. You talk the facts. So you should, for example, write, we have handled over 100 cases last year. We have had an 80% success rate, and we act on the mining sector and the retail sector for clients who are listed companies. So you have to give the facts. That's basically give facts and don't give qualities, and don't use marketing speech.
Right. So no brochure copying and pasting, which
exactly, no website. Also, there is another no here, which is do not just copy and paste from your website. The researcher can access your website, so you say something different. Help the researcher help you.
So facts like when or how many cases you've handled in that practice group, any new initiatives that you've brought about in the past 12 months, so can we also talk about what we're planning to do, or is it more like what have we done in these past 12 months?
Now, the submission is really about the 12 months prior to the deadline. If you want to say something about your future plans, you're welcome to, but of course, that will not have a direct impact on your rankings at this stage. The researcher might mark this information for, checking up the information next year, but
Okay.
yeah, it's
All right, great.
looking back.
Now I want to talk about the matter descriptions. So we know there's publishable and confidential. What are some of the best things that we should be putting in for the matter descriptions? Because sometimes I'll get like a 4-paragraph matter description from a lawyer, and we have to boil it down. So how condensed, how much detail should we go into it? Because for the lawyer, it's all important. So what are the important parts that you're looking for when you're evaluating a certain matter highlight?
Yeah, I think that's very common for the lawyers to write a lot. I think it's, it is very common. It's not a good thing to do that because first, the researcher is reading, like, depending on the practice area, more than hundreds of submissions. They're reading a lot of information. So if you think that each submission has 20 cases, the researcher is going to be reading like over 1,000 cases. So you have to be concise. You have to help the researcher help you. This is something that I always say, try to make the researcher's life easier. So what is important to be in the work highlight description is a brief description of the case. So for example, we have advised this client on a tax litigation matter concerning this and that kind of taxes. So a brief description, and then you can say why this is important. This is very important to say. You have to say why the case was important, because otherwise the researcher might simply not know what you're talking about. Because one thing that's also not known commonly is that many researchers are not lawyers. So if you don't help them to understand the case, they might just look at your case and think, well, that doesn't say anything to me. So you have to explain why that was important. So for example, say this is important because it is not common for law firms to be handled this kind of cases, the first of this kind in this country. It was very complex. It actually set up some new case law. It's you have to say why it is important.
So what do you do when maybe your firm only has one important case and the rest is just filler to put in? So should we leave that stuff out, or is it okay just to kind of show the variety of clients and the type of work? But if you're just doing a standard M&A transaction or some typical banking deal, I'm thinking specifically about IP work, right? Where it's all just pretty straightforward unless it's a patent litigation or something like that. What should firms do when they don't have these amazing, flashy deals?
Well, depending on the practice area, as you say, for example, labor, came across my mind. It's never that complex. But, this is going to be the case for all the other law firms as well. So you put the best of what you've got. And if, for example, it is not necessarily a practice area that is used to lots of complex cases, everyone is going to be in the same boat. But, for example, if it's just like a weak year that you had, send it anyway, hope for the best, hope for your competitors also not have had a great year. And we'll see where we get. But you should always send submissions, even if your cases that year have not been that great. You always have to look for the best and put it there, the best you can, and always send submissions.
Okay. Now, so you, after spending some time doing research at Chambers, you started your own consulting firm on legal directory submissions and marketing. So knowing this process from the inside and now advising a lot of law firms, what are some tips and best practices that we can implement in our own firms to make this process a bit more manageable? Because I know a lot of us on this call and in the BD Roundtable membership tend to wait until the week before, or the partners wait until the week before to give us the matter details. So how can we manage this process a bit better?
I think first thing is to create the habit of having maybe a folder. If you don't have a case management system, some firms do, some firms don't, but at least have a folder where you can write the best cases as they happen. So for example, you closed a good M&A deal, the partner should create the habit of going there and writing a M&A for this company and that company, that many millions, that's it. Create a list so that once the deadline approaches, you can just go there, get some stuff from there, and then start populating the submission. I think that's the easiest way to manage the workload, so you don't have to be, oh, did I close that case in 2018, 19? So if you have already like a source of cases, you can make your life much easier. Also, one tip that something I normally do with my clients is tell them fake deadlines, because the lawyers obviously, they are very busy, and they will of course prioritize talking to their clients as opposed to writing a submission, because if they don't talk to the clients, we don't have a submission anyway. So it's understandable that they will prioritize the clients, but if you actually tell them that the deadline is a bit, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks before the actual deadline, you might get lucky and send it on time. And it is really important that we meet deadlines, particularly for the referee spreadsheet. The submission, I don't know how many lawyers I have here, but I hope it's more BD than lawyers, I think.
Yes.
But yeah, so as we're all among BDs here, the submissions, if you have to delay it a bit, it's okay. You can ask for an extension. It's not going to be the end of the world, because the research actually tends to start at least a month after the deadline. Not for Legal 500. For Legal 500, normally it is about 2 or 3 weeks, and they start reading the submission immediately. But for chambers, the submission tends to be only read 1 month after, which is when the research actually starts. So you do have some leeway there, but not for the client's referees. So the client list, you have to send it on time, because it's a more automated process. So if your referees arrive first, they will be processed first. So you don't run the risk of your client having been already interviewed for another law firm. So you have to keep in mind that the referees, it's crucial to be there on time.
Okay, well, I have a very specific question about that, which I'll save for the Q&A session for the BD Roundtable. Thank you so much for your time explaining sort of what goes on and the mystery of chambers. So if someone wants to get more information about legal directory submissions, where can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, they can get in touch with me via email. My email is Danielle, L-E at the end, at vidigalmarketing.com. And my website is www.vidigalmarketing.com. And I'm also on LinkedIn, so you feel free to reach out there, Danielle Vidigal. It'll be a pleasure connecting to anyone who came from your BD Roundtable, and talking a bit more will be nice. Please feel free to reach out. And thank you for this invitation. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.